A few months ago, I was recommended to play Halo Reach by a viewer, the fourth release for developer Bungie's critically acclaimed and renowned FPS game franchise, Halo. Unlike most other people on this platform who talk about video games, I did not grow up with Halo or Call of Duty or Battlefield. In fact, FPS games are something I tolerate, never particularly enjoy. Prior to this recommendation, I had dabbled in the original Halo Combat Evolved, only to never really finish it. Don't get me wrong, I don't dislike the game. The combat was fun and fluid. The general game design, both in terms of character models as well as the map, was unique and memorable, with its almost cartoony alien creature enemies placed in both beautiful alien planet landscapes as well as rather dark clinical military facilities. Playing as Master Chief, perhaps a modernized version of the Doom guy with an arsenal of guns that spit a million bullets in seconds, felt almost cathartic. However, again, I'm not the biggest fan of shooters, and even the fact that I was experiencing an important part of video game history could not cure my inevitable apathy towards it. So, booting up Halo Reach, I was prepared to not be particularly hooked, to not especially find anything too enjoyable. And yeah, I was correct. Halo Reach is a good game, a fun game, but it isn't something I would sing praises for long. However, there is something about the game that stood out to me. Well, not exactly about the game, but something that the game does. About halfway through the campaign, there is a section called The Long Night of Solace, which sees our character, not the Master Chief, but a Spartan named Noble 6, boarding a space-fighting ship thing and fighting waves of Covenant ships. This section is indeed notable for the obvious reason that this is one of the only times space vehicle combat is done in Halo, which is surprising as even from the very beginning, Bungie's core focus that differentiated Halo from all the other cover shooters was vehicular combat. And in space, the added dimensions of up and down seems to be too good of an area to not capitalize on. However, what really caught my eye wasn't this fact. It was instead quite simply everything else. Everything surrounding it. Space. The space combat part of this section takes place right above the planet named Reach. As such, the Earth-like body is visible all throughout this section. Moreover, the space that surrounds it, the skybox, which portrays faraway galaxies, collections of stars, and God knows what other celestial wonders, completely drape the rest of the screen at all times. Skyboxes are something I've always found mesmerizing. From the simple yet charming skies of the older Zeldas to the dense and ominous clouds of Shadow of the Colossus, the paradoxical nature of them, that is that they are technically speaking blankets that set the boundaries, the limitations of the video game's world, whilst being representations of the limitless, the sky, has always grabbed my attention. And here in Halo Reach, a game released after a decade or so in technological development time, the skyboxes are like detailed paintings of heavenly vistas, like the Sistine Chapel of astronomical bliss. Something so weirdly alluring that I had to physically stop playing the game and move closer to my monitor to peer into the far-off nebula right before I was pulled right back in, as I had missed the legion of Covenant ships that had entered and were now shooting at me. I know that for people who may have watched my other videos, especially the ones where I talk about how I've spent countless minutes just walking up and down a broken bridge connecting Sense Fortress and Undead Parish just because it had the vibes, the fact of me being mesmerized by an 8K PNG of space while under attack in a shooter game may not be that surprising, but believe me, I am not that person. I'm not one to really do much above and beyond what is asked of me in a video game for the vibes. And yet, Halo Reach seems to be an exception. Even in the first section, right after we are introduced to the Special Ops Noble team, as we are investigating into signals given out by UNSC bases in the human colonized planet Reach, the skyboxes contain rather sublime skyscapes of gargantuan spaceships, even larger planets and surreal clouds. Again, I don't usually do this, but I had to completely disregard the mission to just take in the utter beauty of what was right in front of me. And this felt quite intriguing to me because, again, why? As I said, neither Halo Reach nor the wider Halo franchise mean anything to me. They are simply vestiges of video game history, another big franchise name, another shooter, and yet, even when I try to disregard all of Halo, I couldn't help but think back to the very first time I encountered the original Halo's menu screen, years before I'd even play it on some video on the internet. The goddamn Halo ring, the absolute magnificence and a simultaneous edge of unfamiliarity of a grand, seemingly impossible structure with Earth-like colors inside it, had awakened an intense feeling of awe. And yes, the camera pans over the Halo ring while in the background every dude bro's favorite thing of all time, the iconic chant and music, envelops the menu with an atmosphere of grandeur. This is a game that is aiming big, both in technicality with its combat as well as what is literally in the game, the Halo ring, the Pillar of Autumn, and the absolute scope of the story being told, which encapsulates everything from the dawn of time itself. Halo has always been an experience about big things, and what could be bigger than the literal totality of existence itself, the stupidly grand expanse of space that houses quantities of things, matter, too large to even begin to comprehend. Don't get me wrong, I could blurt out a fake-sounding number, but it would be too high to actually cognize the real extent of its enormity. Perhaps it is because of this bigness, this larger than anything we have ever experiencedness, that people have almost always been intrigued about what lies beyond the blue canvas above their heads. As Carl Sagan said,
"It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world."
Perhaps that is why I too was entranced by just a representation of the vast abyss that surrounds us. Regardless, alongside this humbling feeling, peering at the skyboxes of Halo Reach, I was also reminded of something I had never really forgotten, but something that I never really gave much thought to. When I was a child, like a lot of people from my generation, I too wanted to be an astronaut when I grew up. Apparently, even today, over 50% of children in China want to be astronauts in the future. I don't really know why I was drawn to it. I mean, sure, other than it just being cool as fuck, I don't especially remember any real reasoning behind it. Obviously, yeah, I didn't have a logical syllogism as to why I wanted to be an astronaut besides, I see astronaut cool, I want to be cool, I want to astronaut. I was a child. And then, I remember vividly telling my grandmother that I would rather die a million light years away from Earth than anywhere on it. Please believe me, I was an ordinary child. I think. Probably. This random memory being lodged into my brain made me want to check if it was actually true, and I asked my father about it, and surprisingly, instead of that particular statement, he recalls hearing another, that being that when I was asked why I wanted to be an astronaut, the little shite I was responded, so that I could watch the world burn from space. Yes, I too had a phase at some point, perhaps too early even, but out of the genuine shock that captured me after hearing such a statement from an 8-year-old version of myself, I turned to Halo, and to my surprise, I saw my 8-year-old self in it. Halo Reach is a game about the world burning down. Unlike the mainline Halo games, as stated earlier, you are not Master Chief, you are Noble 6. Although still quite a capable Spartan, you are far from the one-man army that the Master Chief is, and the game, of course, is aware of this. In the introductory cutscene of the Noble team, our leader Carter specifically asks us to play by the team and not go lone wolf. Our team is crucial to our travel across the game's campaign. This is highlighted gameplay-wise by the fact that the main campaign rarely leaves you alone in an area. Even in Exodus, the level right after Long Night of Solace, which sees Noble 6 crash-landed on a reach that's devastated by Covenant troops, you swiftly catch up with UNSC forces not too long into the level. Team combat is given more importance in Reach than in the original Halos. The more the merrier, right? Well, no, because as I said, Reach is about watching the world burn. Each and every single one of your Noble team members will die as you progress through the campaign. At the end of the Long Night of Solace, George, the big man with the big gun, will sacrifice himself as he saves you and delays the fall of Reach. This is followed with a rather random headshot killing Kat, then Carter, then Emil, and so on until finally you too, Noble 6, dies off, alone, in combat with an enemy that could never have been subdued. Yes, the ending sees a human reclaimed Reach backgrounded to a eulogy for 6 and all the others who died fighting, but this genuinely feels like a little sprinkle of chocolate chips over a cake made of charcoal and shit. Halo Reach is hopeless. Every single mission sees you traversing a world on the brink of collapse, fighting a fight that's quite pointless as compared to the size of what's left to fight. And what is this fight? Yes, it is a fight against an army of aliens called the Covenant, but even within the plot of the entire franchise, the real particulars behind the motivations of this eons spanning war is rather bland and vague. There is a war going on. The other side seems to be kind of fascistic, if not authoritarian. This side, on the other hand, seems very militant and genetics focused. It's all very familiar to us. Even though the mesmerizing skyboxes allude to something new, something hitherto unknown, something out there. Even though the Long Night of Solace features brand new gameplay mechanics situated in the vast abyss itself, war, death, loss, hopelessness, it's all the same. Reach may not be our world, but in going there, in colonizing it, we have made it ours. And we watch it burn as we try to leave it behind, like how we did the Earth. This realization led me to recall something that Fredric Jameson had noted in his essay on postmodernism and consumer society, that being the identification of Star Wars as a nostalgia film. I can't drink, so I'm gonna pretend this is a serious drink. This is just water. One of the most important cultural experiences of the generations that grew up from the 1930s to the 1950s was the Saturday afternoon serial of the Buck Rogers type. Alien villains, true American heroes, heroines in distress, the death ray or the doomsday box, and the cliffhanger at the end whose miraculous solution was to be witnessed next Saturday afternoon. Jameson recognizes the echoes of these very tropes within George Lucas's Star Wars. Far from being a pointless satire of such dead forms, Star Wars satisfies a deep, might I even say repressed, longing to experience them again. It is a complex object in which, on some first level, children and adolescents can take the adventures straight, while the adult public is able to gratify a deeper and more properly nostalgic desire to return to the older period and to live its strange old aesthetic artifacts through once again. But this is rather peculiar, isn't it? I mean, it's Star Wars, Wars Among the Stars, something that gripped the audiences as a journey never before seen, at a scale never before seen, with technology never before seen, in terms of both its making as well as what is literally in the film itself. And yet, as Roger Ebert puts it, the chivalry is from Robin Hood, the heroes are from westerns, and villains are a cross between Nazis and sorcerers. Star Wars taps the pulp fantasies buried in our memories, and because it's done so brilliantly, it reactivates old thrills, fears, and exhilarations we thought we'd abandoned when we read our last copy of Amazing Stories. In the same review, Ebert describes a kind of out-of-body experience while watching Star Wars, a state of complete immersion which made him forget that he was watching a film and launched him into the universe of Star Wars. And yet, the out-of-body experience, a level of escapism hitherto never seen before, is still, according to both Jameson and Ebert, just a re-emergence of themes that we as a species are all familiar with and, dare I say, create these products to escape from. Like with Reach, it seems that every time we attempt to shoot off into space, into the unknown abyss, what awaits us are the very same demons we are trying to run from. The past decade has seen many of the ultra-wealthy clutch their purses as they sprint to the place which lets them fool around with big rockets and smart people to shoot off into the stars. This has become such a known phenomenon that there exists a Wikipedia page detailing the billionaire space race. Specifically, people like Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk, who have all started to give more and more of their unwanted attention to the cosmos above, with their own cute little company banners with Virgin Galactic, Blue Origin, and how could I forget, SpaceX written on them. Each one of these gremlins have preached about the absolute good that will bring humanity if we were to shoot off into the abyss. It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past, says the quote featured right in front of the SpaceX page for their Mars colonization mission. If we can do this, imagine what else we can do, says Branson. Well, let's drop the facade here for a second. We all know that these people don't give two shits about space nor the people they claim to be working for the betterment of. Most of these companies are indeed mere facets of social credit in order to keep up legitimacy. Extreme wealth in the capitalist age is by definition engaged in a constant and desperate scramble for new sources of ethical legitimacy. Billionaires need a public-facing reason to exist, and for the time being, at least, owning the right bits of paper and expropriating surplus value still doesn't quite cut the mustard. But even if we assume that these people mean it, look at their rhetoric. Both Elon and Branson allude to the improvement of life, of a future that is better than the past. Of course, in their words, it is quite clear that this past, the life we have now, in their view, is becoming inefficient. The Earth is no longer the wellspring of resources it used to be in the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. The specter of climate change and environmental devastation looms over each and every single one of these business magnates. Perhaps that is why they want to take off into the skies, into greener pastures, looking for better hosts. This takeoff, mind you, further putting the planet at risk every single launch, with hundreds of tons of carbon dioxide being lodged into the upper layers of the atmosphere. It is undoubtedly clear that this race off to space is in some ways a desperate struggle to escape the demons that we have festered deep within our bellies due to the way we have lived so far on this planet. And yet I feel very confident in saying that Elon's heart will still go out to white supremacists, even if it is from Mars.
And Elon, we know exactly what that was, bro.
Like Reach, this is a hopeless attempt at escape. To illustrate this better, let me turn our focus into another video game, one that I played last year and one that remains at the top of my mental list of best games of all time. Mouthwashing is a short indie horror game developed by the game dev Wrong Organ, which tells the story of a doomed cargo space shuttle containing an ensemble of 5 workers: Curly, the everyman captain; Jimmy, the creepy second-hand man; Swansea, the experienced mechanic; Daisuke, the boisterous intern; and Anya, the soft-spoken nurse. It's a story worth experiencing without prior knowledge, so spoilers. But basically, this is a story about the delusional, narcissistic scumbag that is Jimmy, running away from his despicable actions and basically killing every single person on the ship due to his cowardice. What makes the story most interesting to bring up in this context is the entire scope of it. See, our 5 characters work for Pony Express, an intergalactic transport service company which, very early into the game, lays every single one of them off due to an implied wave of automation in the market. Humans have achieved so far beyond what is merely earthly that now we ship tons of mouthwash across galaxies, and yet still, as seen in the background of the game, job insecurity, labor violations, alienation, and all the other not-so-fun aspects of neoliberal capitalism persists, perhaps stronger than ever. In the foreground, meanwhile, we have a tale of even more immediate violence, as Jimmy is heavily implied to have raped Anya after treating her like shit all throughout, while Curly, the captain, the supervisor, enables Jimmy's depravity. Jimmy's actions have been taken as bad man doing bad thing by a big majority of the fan base, but I think it's important to realize that the violence in the background, the systemic one, is not only intermingled with the immediate literal violence, but also facilitates it. From the vague statements made by both Curly and Jimmy in their conversations, we can infer that Jimmy is a lumpen proletariat, a man of the lower class who is uninterested in challenging the system. In fact, ambition is what defines Jimmy. He envies Curly, the middle-class man, the manager. He wants to be Curly, and it is this eager struggle to attain Curly's status, the macho captain status, that facilitates Jimmy's utterly abhorrent actions as the game progresses. Anya is only put into the situation she is in, trapped with a rapist somewhere in space because of the underlying patriarchal structure that benefits off of the exploited labor of women. She is said to have been unable to get into medical school, allowing us to infer that she probably only took the job because Pony Express, a dying company, were the only ones who would hire an untrained nurse to keep profit margins high enough to compete with the rise in automation in the industry. All in all, the picture that mouthwashing paints is a rather bleak one. Here we are, in the future, the bright tomorrow we all hoped for, where the human race lives across galaxies, a space shuttle meant to transport something so ordinary as mouthwash, and yet, even within that very space shuttle, the shadows of humanity persists. No, it thrives. This is Star Wars nostalgia all over again. This is Halo Reach. This is the hopeless battle that Noble Six gives his life for. A battle we cannot win. Stare into the abyss and the abyss stares back. Except we are the abyss. The abyss stares unto itself. Thinking of all this, two questions popped up in my mind. Firstly, why space? On my own, the only real answer I could come to was the obvious one, because space is cool. It makes us feel tiny and insignificant, and we find a sense of escape in it. That was not an answer I was really satisfied with, until I saw the recently released film Nickel Boys. Nickel Boys is a tightly written and beautifully shot story of two young black men, Elwood and Turner, chronicling their life in a racist reform school during the height of the civil rights movement in the 60s. Although I'd love to highlight the breathtaking filmography and the heartfelt yet poignant writing, what interests me now, with respect to the subject at hand here, is the film's tendency to intercut historical footage into its scenes. Among many pieces of media that have a lot of significance both symbolically, like this PSA-like short where a young boy learns to get over his fear of a dog, and also quite directly, like the footage of MLK and the civil rights movement, it also intercuts footage of space and the American-Soviet space race. What must be the intent behind this? Yes, this majorly happens when the boys experience immediate cruelty within the school, like, for instance, by the end when Elwood is practically tortured by the school staff. As Turner asks another boy where Elwood is, and he replies that he's being punished, the camera, being Turner's POV, tilts upwards and fades into footage of stars in a dark sky. Indeed, considering the stark circumstances our characters find themselves in, the juxtaposition of the glory of American space exploration and its deep-rooted institutional racism and violence is a strong statement. Both the abhorrent treatment of these people as well as the vainglorious race for space exploration is working to feed the very same diabolical core of the American ideology. At the same time, however, I also try to read this from the point of view of Elwood, who is shown to be the more optimistic one out of the two protagonists, who actually acts, or at least tries to act, and make things better for him and his community. Perhaps, in a way, these cuts also signify a frail yet genuine longing to escape for Elwood. Compared to the dark and dingy cells where he is beaten and tortured, the infinitely vast cosmos, hell, even the moon, isn't the thought of that almost emancipatory? Space is the great escape. Shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Out there, above the grueling lives we have here, lays the greatest object of our collective yearning to escape, to leave it all behind. So, yeah, I guess it makes sense. Why space? Because that's all we have for a complete escape. It is out there, and when here is not looking so good, out there is where we want to go. But again, as we've seen time and time again, all throughout this video, it never works. Every time we imagine something out there, we imbue it with what is here. And what is here is so innately rotten that it rots the entire picture. Thinking of all this, something that I read a long time ago resurfaced from within my memory shack. I've never really engaged with the Alien franchise. I think I've seen one of the later Alien films when I was a child, but again, I do not completely remember. However, I am rather familiar with a certain Swiss artist behind the design of the xenomorph, H.R. Geiger, or I think it's supposed to be pronounced Giger. As expectable by looking at the xenomorph itself, Geiger's other works contain the very same cold unfamiliarity and alienness that the creators of the original Alien also identified, which led them to approach Geiger to join the team. But what interests me the most about Geiger's art is how, on paper, common it is. Common, not in that they're easily reproducible, but in that the objects which they contain aren't really alien at all. Skulls, faces, flesh, eyes, tongue, human body parts, human sexuality. They aren't alien. Instead, they are deeply human. Yes, they are usually depicted in an extremely twisted way that they are barely recognizable, and yes, there is a lot of technology and metal present in his works, but at their core, they aren't alien at all. Even the xenomorph is said to have been designed as the embodiment of the perfect organism, the most efficient one. But perhaps due to the very fact that it is a human being designing them, they can't help but be human. Quote, "In the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. I just did some clouds or whatever, and then I could make an eye or something. It was just, from the belly." I find that to be such a fascinating sentence because, again, with the context of what this man's work looks like, that is, alien, it is so interesting how he describes them to originate from within himself. What could be less alien than something from your own belly? Well, I guess Geiger would probably ask the exact opposite. What could be more alien than your own belly? Geiger, in his personal life, is a rather strange fellow in the sense that he reports on seeing visions. When the co-writer of Alien, Dan O'Bannon, went to visit Geiger, Geiger offered the man opium. When asked why he takes it himself, Geiger replied, "I am afraid of my visions." "It's just your mind," O'Bannon said. Geiger responded, "That is what I am afraid of." I think I've set the stage enough. Geiger, to me, represents all of us. At the end of the day, our minds, the atrocities that we are able to dream up, the systems of oppression, the deep-rooted structure bathed in blood and pain, all resulting from within ourselves, are all we are really afraid of and what we are trying to escape into the abyss from, only to realize that we are bringing these very nightmares with us. So, the second question. What is to be done? Mr. VI, let's not do that. Oh well, like the pre-chorus for the character Kai Kisk's theme song from Guilty Gear Strive goes, "I don't know what's right for the world. Oh, I may have lost my way." I don't know. But, as the rest of the pre-chorus goes, "There's no reason to doubt it now, so what do I have to fear?" Basically, we need to confront our demons here and now. Capitalism, patriarchy, white supremacy, all of that shit needs to be addressed first and foremost by the people. And we must not get into the stupid space race bandwagon that Elon and the rich fucks like him are hauling, as they're spectacular distractions, and as we have seen time and time again, running away will not work. Secondly, we need to understand that space, what is out there, is not really out there. As humans, we are nature. We are a part of it, not separate from it. When we study the cosmos, it is not that we, humans, an independent life form that is studying nature. No, it is nature gaining consciousness of itself. Such an understanding not only would help to eradicate escapist notions about space, but also would probably put into perspective what we are doing here on Earth right now. The idea that nature is a big other has led us to plunder it and discard it as we please. And it is this fundamental misunderstanding that lays at the base of most of these aforementioned nightmares that we have created for ourselves. Indeed, all of this is easier said than done, I'm quite well aware. But I also believe that these things are better said than not. So, yeah, so it is said.
There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
Thank you for watching this video. Shout out to my wonderful patrons from patreon.com, Ali, Andrew Fruji, Archagent Everlasting, Abs, Key, Drowning Curious, and Lungs Sama for supporting me monetarily. Your support is very much appreciated. I make videos like this sometimes. Well, once a month, I guess that's what I try to go for. So if you enjoyed this video, like the video and comment down below your thoughts and subscribe and stuff. And also, my Twitter is linked in the description down below. I also have a Blue Sky. I don't think I've linked it in the description. I'll probably link it in the description. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. Again, I don't know. Don't escape into space. Confront your demons. Ta-ta.